Good morning, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette. We're back here on this Thursday morning, and we're going to be previewing Nebraska and Michigan State on Saturday. We're going to break down the offense, the defense, some keys, throw out a prediction, and then we're also going to look ahead to some of the recruits that we'll be visiting for this Michigan State game and kind of see what that looks like, what the recruiting buzz is there. So, yeah, before we get into it, please make sure if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, get into the comment section with your thoughts on Michigan State or your predictions for this weekend. And Danny, how are you doing on this Thursday morning?
I'm doing well. I'm excited for another game day. Excited for a chance to get back on track. And Michigan State's a fun opponent. Always has been. So I'm excited for this weekend.
Yeah, it's been quite a few interesting games between Nebraska and Michigan State over the years. Had the game winner. I'm blanking now on the guy who caught the touchdown. Brandon O'Reilly, I believe,
Yep.
caught the
Ryan Riley,
touchdown against Brandon Riley got the touchdown against Michigan State, where they said that he was pushed out of bounds, caught the play. I mean, Taylor Martinez had some magic against the Spartans. Of course, they've had some magic against us. The Jaden Reed punt return touchdown in I think 2021 that ended up tying the game. And so interesting matchup. Both teams coming off bye weeks. Both teams are 3-1. Both teams, Michigan State played Boston College, a Power 4 team in non-conference, beat them, but lost their Big Ten opener to USC on the road, 45-31. So, a few similarities, I would say, between Nebraska and Michigan State. They also have a dynamic quarterback, Aiden Chili's. I mean, that's the guy, kind of start the scouting report off with, because he's really played much better this season. I think the number one thing that I've noticed about him is protecting the ball much better. I think last year he had like 11 interceptions or something. This year he only has 1 interception, 9 touchdowns, completing 68% of his passes, averaging about 218 passing yards per game, runs for about 30-40 yards per game. So, I mean, the numbers aren't crazy with Aiden Chili's, but he's a guy that has a ton of talent. And, if I'm John Butler in the Nebraska defense, he's the guy that's keeping me up at night this week.
And here's an interesting statistic that in the month of, in the first quarter this season, he's gone 15-18 for 195 yards, a little over 80% completion percentage. And then as the quarters go on, for example, the third quarter, he has a 54.2 completion percentage, and then in the fourth, a 60% completion percentage. So it seems like he starts off hot early and then, kind of tapers down from there, but he can start quickly. And like you mentioned, he's been very careful with the football, a dynamic playmaker. So, we'll get into the keys here in a second, but just something to note here is that the Huskers defense and pass rush has to get to him early, because once the later parts of the game occur, he does again fall off a little bit.
Yeah, and I think getting pressure, is going to be an important factor in this game. Also, his scrambling ability. He's only got 154 yards rushing this year, so 38 yards per game. So it's not like, he's been tearing it up, but he does have the ability to beat you with his legs. And we saw, Bryce Underwood, take that quarterback draw, and he had a few other runs, but he had that 38-yard run. We saw what Sorsby, was able to do when Nebraska, edge rushers and stuff kind of broke container, when he was able to break contain. So I do think that that's going to be a big factor this week in seeing how Nebraska's kind of struggled against the run with quarterbacks. I would expect, Chili's to try to take advantage of that. So those rush lanes and keeping that rush lane integrity is going to be important. Michigan State has allowed 10 sacks in 4 games, so they're not the best offensive line. Like, this is not Michigan in terms of, like, Michigan State really is the little brother of Michigan in terms of, like, their defensive line, their offensive line. Like, they are not anywhere close to what we saw 2 weeks ago with the Michigan Wolverines. So in terms of the trenches, I think if Nebraska doesn't come out on top this week, if they don't, if they struggle to run the ball, if they struggle to protect against this Michigan State team, that'll be worrisome for me, because I do think in the trenches, this should be a matchup that favors Nebraska.
And Matt Rhule said that the coaching staff has a bit of a surprise for the second running back. So I've been trying to figure out who that is, whether it's Brody Belt or Wyatt Mazur, or who will be RB2. And I think honestly, if Brody Belt had some eligibility still, he'd be a good fit in this instance. But I've been trying to rack my brain to figure out who it is, and I've asked, I asked social media, and I heard a bunch of different names. Vincent Genatone, people said Harburg, but who do you think RB2 is going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they mean by that. Or Dana Holgerson saying, you're going to see something you haven't seen before. So I don't really
And
know
Rules did the same thing to effect, basically. So
what in the world they're talking about there. Yeah, I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're talking about like playing more fullback or like, I'm not sure, but you know, I don't really see Jamarian Parker is the only thing that I can truly think of is that maybe he's healthy and he's going to make an impact. Um, like maybe coming, I just don't like if one of these guys was that dynamic, why haven't they been playing before? So that's kind of my questions. It makes me think maybe it's Parker or Connor Booth, one of those freshmen, like maybe Genatoni in a different role, a short yardage role, or I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that. And they also said the same. Rule kind of said the same thing about left tackle. Like we have a plan at left tackle or offensive tackle. The depth chart looks exactly the same, so I don't know if that means like they're going to chip more because they didn't offer very much help against Michigan, and there was often times where like Gunnar Gatula was just like one-on-one, and I mean, frankly, he's lucky he didn't get about 6 holding calls because like he got beat for some sacks, but he held them almost every single play. Like the refs actually did Nebraska a lot of favors in that Michigan game, and frankly, I don't know why, but across football, refs are not calling holding anymore. It's pretty like whether it's the NFL. I mean, I don't know how many times I saw Danny Sutton, whatever his name is from Penn State. He was held all night against Oregon. Like they're
yeah,
just letting tackles grab guys. I mean, just straight up grab them. And I mean, like, it's crazy. And it's like, I watched the Cowboys hold the Packers like all night. And like it's every single game that I watch. I cannot like take my eyes off the offensive tackles because they're just hugging people. Like they're hugging people. They're like I literally saw Micah Parsons getting grabbed by the arm the other night, and there was no flag. And the same thing has happened to Nebraska. Like it's crazy. So, I mean, as much as I do think Nebraska should have the edge with these, like with Deshaun McCullough, like it depends how much the refs are going to let these guys hold because like that's probably the biggest advantage, honestly, for the offense is like just the way that refs have stopped calling holding. Because if you can hold like the best way to neutralize the quarterback is with the pass rush. And if you're
yeah.
just going to let the offensive line hold those guys, it makes it pretty easy for the offense. And so I am worried about that aspect of it. But like this should be a big game for Deshaun McCullough. I think Michigan State might even be missing their left tackle. And like I said, they've
Yeah.
given up a ton of
Yep.
sacks, but hopefully they don't just let them like hold the crap out of Deshaun McCullough out there because it's been bad in the Big Ten, especially.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought that up because I noticed the same thing. It's almost like they subscribed, the refs did, to the fan theory of there's holding on every play. So why are they
Yeah.
calling it? And I think I think it does make a huge difference when you're allowed to play physically as an offensive lineman. I mean, you can speak on it better than I can, but hell, if you were able to hold like I've seen during some of these games, you might not be on this podcast with me, and you might be talking about an NFL Hall of Fame career. But I think it's going to be important to get to the passer, and Deshaun McCullough is a guy that I truly believe can get there. They've done a little bit better over the past couple of weeks. I mean, Michigan's offensive line was pretty good, so we didn't really see it a ton, and but they've done a better job of getting to the quarterback. So I think this will be their first, kind of good chance to see where they stand on that with a much more favorable Big Ten opponent.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see, what the plan is for running back 2 or for offensive tackle. I know a lot of fans weren't, super thrilled to see the depth chart not really changing after the first couple of weeks, but we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, they've piqued my interest, Matt Rhule and the coaching staff with how they're going to handle that. So I'm not sure exactly what they mean by we have a plan
Yeah,
for running back 2 and offensive tackle, but I guess we'll see. We'll see what that means on Saturday. I have to think at least with running back though, it's got to be somebody we haven't seen yet. That's or it makes me think either some position grouping or some player that we haven't seen yet. So either more maybe Vince Genatoni in more of a fullback type of role, like they used to, and that used to be kind of a running role, like with Jakovic or Jankovic back in the day. I probably
Andy
mispronounced
J.
his name.
Andy
Yeah,
Jakovich.
you know what I'm talking about, though. So
Yep.
I really don't know, but I am going to be interested. I'll be watching that closely. when the offense kind of comes out on the field. And yeah, offensive tackle, like really, whether it's Gatula, whether it's Pritchett, whether it's Prohashka, I'm not really sure what they're, maybe there's Grant Bricks or somebody working into the mix. I'm not really sure.
That'd be nice.
But either way, I do think this will be a good test for Nebraska's offensive line. I mean, Michigan State's got six. I think they have 6 sacks in 4 games, like Nebraska does. Jordan Hall's kind of the guy to know. He's a linebacker, but they'll blitz him in there. They'll rush him a bit. He's got 6 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. I mean, they're not a great defense. So I mean, he's probably the one guy that you need to know. They've got some good pieces in the secondary, but Nebraska and Dylan Raiola really should be able to tear this defense apart. They've allowed 220 or 263 yards per game. They're allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete 67% of their passes, 2.3 touchdowns per game. This defense they're forcing 1 turnover per game, so not really much to write home about. Even though Jonathan Smith is more of a defensive, minded head coach, but they're 105th in defensive scoring. And they gave up they did beat Boston College, but they gave up like 40 points to Boston College in that game. So this is definitely a team you can pass the ball against. They are not good in another area, third down. They struggle to get off the field on third down. They've given up almost 50% on third downs, like 23 of 51 attempts. And they've also given up 17 scores and 19 red zone attempts, which is another area where Nebraska has struggled. So I feel like, whereas Michigan was a really bad matchup for Nebraska, at least offensively, I think that this is a great matchup for Nebraska.
And beating Boston College is not an achievement now. They just lost to Cal this past weekend. So beating Boston College is like, saying that somebody beat me in a race with my wheelchair. It's like whoop-de-doo, congrats. But anyway, I think this is going to be a interesting game to see again where the trenches fall and if Nebraska can get pressure, because you mentioned it early in the season and I agree they struggled to get pressure in the opener against Cincinnati. They did a little bit better against Houston Christian, kind of the same thing against Akron, and then Michigan, it felt like they were completely shut down, but that's a pretty good offensive line. So I'm very curious to see, who's able to get home today or Saturday. Excuse me. I'm expecting McCullough. Maybe a little bit more from the defensive line. I'm going to be watching the defensive line in terms of how they stop the run and how they kind of hone in on it. And again, new offensive line coach and Terry Braden, very young defensive line group. This is their first bye week as a group, so I'm excited to see the adjustments that they've made.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they play some different personnel. Probably not much different, but I do think another thing to watch in this matchup is going to be the run defense. And Michigan State's not a great running team, but they do have Mekhi Frazier is his name. He's a big back, over 200 pounds. He's got 267 yards on the season, 4.7 yards per carry. And they did average against, it is Boston College and USC, not the greatest defenses in the world, but they ran for over 100 yards against both of those teams. They averaged about 3.8 yards per carry combined, so not like elite, but they're a good enough rushing team that I believe that they will try to challenge Nebraska with Chili's running the football a little bit, and also with Frazier here. So, I mean, Nebraska's given up at least every single starting running back has averaged 5 yards per attempt against Nebraska. I think Justice Haynes was like at 8 yards. Both Michigan backs well over 5 yards. So to me, that's a concern. And that's something where Nebraska's going to have to step up and show that can't happen this week. So they're going to have to, step up and kind of stonewall that running of Michigan State, or that's one area where I could see this game going awry for Nebraska, is if Michigan State can run for 200 yards or something. I don't think they'll be able to, but if they are, that'll be one way Nebraska could lose this game in my eyes.
And if they struggle with the run, they have a weapon at wide receiver in Omari Kelly. He's a senior from Alabama, and he played well in the team's last game against USC. He caught 6 passes for 133 yards, averaged 22.2 yards per catch, and he's averaging 15.1 yards per reception on the season. So they do have a big play threat at wide receiver. So I'm curious to see how the secondary locks him down and what that looks like. And I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Malcolm Hartzog will not be available again.
Yeah, he was listed as doubtful. But honestly, I don't know that I saw some people like comparing it to the Tommy Hill situation, and I just don't think that.
No.
Not trying to be mean, but I don't think Malcolm Hartzell is anywhere near in that kind of realm of player. So honestly, like, they've got or basically they've just been playing three corners and two safeties, and then when they needed a third safety, it's Rex Guthrie. So, I mean, I
Who has
want
been playing really well, by the way.
Yes, I don't know that that's going to hurt them that much. Nick Marsh is another guy to know on this team. 18 catches, 222 yards, 3 touchdowns. So they got a couple of nice weapons. And Chili's is a really good quarterback. I mean, he's getting first round buzz. He's a redshirt sophomore. So yeah, this pass defense for Nebraska obviously has been really elite, but I think part of that too, I mean, like Michigan didn't really have to throw that much. They ran for 286 yards. I mean, Cincinnati ran for over 200 yards. And I know that like Sorsby didn't throw for a ton, but part of that too has been, Nebraska has possessed the ball really well. So I know that the pass defense has really great numbers, but I don't necessarily trust it as like, that we can say this is an elite pass defense yet. Like I want to see somebody come out and test it and like have a really good quarterback throw, and I think we'll see that this weekend. So I think we'll have a better understanding of just how good this Nebraska pass defense is after this matchup, because this is probably, I would say, I mean, I think Underwood's more talented than Chili's, but Chili's obviously is not, he's more experienced, and so he's not going to have some of the same limitations, I guess, that probably Michigan put on Underwood, and two, I don't see them running the ball as well. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys hold up against some of these Michigan State receivers and this quarterback, and to see if they can really, get pressure on a drop back passer.
And I'm curious to see if John Butler puts together different pressure packages or different looks at the line to confuse Chili's, because I think that would be important. But this is a big game for John Butler as well. This is a chance for him to reset. And I thought they did okay against Michigan. Again, there were some drop passes, and there was that Underwood long run during the game, and so I thought he kind of struggled with containing Underwood's legs. I mean, Michigan's running game spoke for itself there. I mean, they are very talented running backs. You could scheme up however much you want, but I'm very interested to see how Butler schemes up against Chili's, and how Nebraska does with a mobile quarterback, because not even this season, just historically, it always seems like they struggle in that area. So I'm excited to see the chess match there.
Yeah, not just Nebraska. I mean, every defense struggles against mobile quarterbacks because they're hard. I mean, guys that can run and throw and can zone read. I mean, it adds an element to the defense, or I mean, to your defense, that you just have to. It's something you have to worry about, right? Like when you're running that zone read. I mean, he's basically taking out a defender just because that defender has to respect that run, and so. We'll see how that works. They're gonna try to do some similar things to Michigan, but you look at the line right now. Nebraska is an 11.5 point favorite over Michigan State. The over/under is 48.5. So, Vegas definitely liking Nebraska in this matchup, and it's still been trending up. The line, it was about 10.5 when it opened, so it feels like it's been trending up in Nebraska's way. So let's look at some of the biggest keys. Like what do you think is the biggest key for Nebraska? If you can narrow it down to like one or two things that they have to do in order to win this game.
One or two. I'd say probably rush the passer. They need to make Chili's uncomfortable. They need to make him, kind of not look at his first read, and they need to make him go through his progressions. They need to make him uncomfortable in the pocket, and they need to make sure they wrap up and make their tackles, because not tackling Chili's could lead to disaster for the Huskers. And he's a very talented quarterback, so I'd love to see him get some more sacks on Saturday.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's pretty simple. I think that Dylan Raiola needs to play extremely well, and I think that he will, as long as he gets, protection and has, decent running game and all that type of stuff. But I think Raiola throwing for about 300 yards, I think, is how Nebraska, wins this game. Because like I said, this Michigan State defense, isn't good at getting to the quarterback. They're okay stopping the run, but I think it's, kind of probably a similar deal with Nebraska, where it's just, the pass defense is so susceptible that teams are going to target that. So I think Dylan Raiola, having a 300-yard game and playing like he has all season is going to be a huge key. And then I think the second thing is going to be stopping the run. If this team can stop Michigan State from running the football, keep them to about 100 yards, keep them under 100 yards, and Hemon, Aiden Chili's. I think if they can make him a pocket passer, I think Nebraska will win this game. I think the pass rush will get some pressure on him. I don't really trust this Michigan State offensive line in terms of pass protection, but if they can establish a running game, that's the thing that's going to really concern me, because that will, one, allow them to try to keep Raiola on the sidelines a little bit, and two, that's going to keep them in manageable third down situations. And I think that will limit some of the things that John Butler wants to be able to do on third down, kind of like with Michigan. Like it's hard to do fancy things on third down when it's 3rd and 3, right? Like there's only so much in your when people say, like, on offense there's only so much in the playbook for like 3rd and 20. Well, it's kind of the same thing for defense too. Like there's only so many things you can do when it's when it's 3rd and 2 or whatever, because you have to defend everything. So I think the run defense in Nebraska and how that holds up will be a huge key in this matchup.
Yeah. And, I think that might require some, more solid play from the linebackers. And, you saw certain instances against Michigan. Now, again, Michigan's offensive line, especially with run blocking, is very, very good. But you saw at times where, the defensive line, took the wrong angle on run plays, and that allowed big holes. And there was nobody there, at the second level to try to come up and make a play. So I think, starting, this week, getting the linebackers more involved in that, run defense part of things, and not allowing, big holes at the second level is going to be important. And that could start this week.
All right, so let's see. Let's go ahead and we'll get to a recruiting part. Let's go ahead and get to our predictions. I guess that would make sense, and then we'll cover the recruiting aspect of the show. So yeah, I haven't honestly done a prediction yet for this game, but 11.5-point favorite. Nebraska, I don't know. That seems a little bit high to me, but what's your prediction for Saturday? Do you see Nebraska winning, and what's your final score?
Oh, I do see Nebraska winning. I'm going to go 34-17 Huskers.
I'm going to say Nebraska wins, and I'm going to say 31-20. I'm going to say that they don't cover the spread, but it's going to be close. Maybe it'll come down a little bit. But yeah, I see Nebraska scoring 30. I think Michigan State will keep it close and competitive, but I do think the defense will find a way to get a takeaway or two. That's one thing about Chili's is, he will turn the ball over. Hasn't done it very much this year, but I think he'll be under a little bit more pressure than he's been under. And I think it'll be a solid game for the defense. I think Nebraska will run the ball well. I don't know what the RB2 situation looks like, but I feel like this will be another strong game for Emmett Johnson. And I definitely see the offense like racking up over 400 yards of total offense on Saturday.
I'm very interested to see that RB2 is. I really am. We'll see. And if whoever it is, if he can provide some depth for Emmett and give Emmett a break, that's going to be very, very important, especially as the schedule ramps up.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm like, are they going to move like Cortez Mills back there? Like, I really don't know. I've tried to think of all possibilities.
Do you think Jameer Parker's healthy enough?
I don't know. I've been thinking that's been kind of my hypothesis. I don't know if it's like him or Connor Booth, or if it. But the thing they say, like, you haven't seen before, that makes me think like it's different type of formation, Genatoni at fullback, or even Carter Nelson in the backfield. Like, they've talked about using him as a runner before. So I really don't know. I've been like you. I've been kind of like hypothesizing different things. So
I haven't seen Parker before, so maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, and maybe he's. I mean, I did compare him to Amon Green before, so maybe maybe that's what they mean. I really don't know, but they definitely have my interest peaked. And like, honestly, we're like debating it. It's probably going to be like some small minor change that we'll see like 3 times, and it won't even like make that big of an impact. But maybe.
Well, I mean, this is why we have these shows, Chris, just to kind of get everybody riled up and see what sticks. But when game time comes,
I mean, I think Holgerson did that. He's like, you will see something you've never seen before.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, like,
okay.
You don't usually say stuff like that, Dana. So
what is that? What does that mean? I don't know. Dana Holgerson's got everybody fired up this week.
Bringing in Johnny Rogers for a snap or two. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I bet you Johnny can still run a little bit.
Probably. He looks in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But let's wrap up the show here with some of the recruits that are going to be on campus this weekend. It's going to be a big weekend for 2027 and 28. Five-star Torrey Pittman, the Nebraska in-state commitment, will be visiting. A bunch of other, strong players. Four-star tight end Cooper Terwingler, just put Nebraska in his top four with Michigan and some others. He's a top 10 tight end in 2027, so he'll be back on campus. Kylan Haney, three-star running back from Omaha. He'll be visiting. Some really interesting players in 2028 too. I noticed some Micah Benning. I'm not sure if that if that's another Benning, or not. If that's got a relationship to Damon Benning at all, but just kind of looking at the list here. But the name that really interests me is in the 2026 class, and Nebraska's going to be hosting Josiah Tesley, who's just reclassified to 2026. He's committed to Virginia. He's 6'4", 180 pounds, ranked pretty low right now in 2026 class, but I wouldn't worry too much about the rankings. I mean, Penn State has offered him, Vanderbilt, NC State, Wake Forest, so he's kind of, rising quickly. They did just lose a wide receiver commitment, and I don't think it's a super huge need, but Nebraska's offered a couple of new receivers now in the 2026 class in the past 2 weeks. So, I would expect them to make a strong push for to flip Josiah Teasley from Virginia this weekend.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, if you can, why not? I mean, Teasley is a dynamic player. He's very explosive. So, good on them for trying to flip Teasley and see what they can do there. And I don't know if you've heard anything else about Dante Lovett, but I know that they were kind of kicking the tires on him as well.
Oh, interesting. No, I haven't heard that. I do know that
they were interested. I heard.
Yeah, and with Teasley, I mean, he Penn State. He just visited for Penn State. So that's kind of who they're competing with, I would say. But just this past week, he's been offered by Penn State, Syracuse, North Carolina State, and Wake Forest, and Vanderbilt. So just in the past week, he's got all these offers. So he's really blowing up. I guess he's listed at 6'4", actually 6'5". He runs 4.52 in the 40-yard dash. So really a guy that, you can see why Matt Rhule and company would be interested in him. And I guess on the other recruiting part of it, Danny Odom, there seems to be more and more concern, I would say, with Michigan. I don't know if he's going to be visiting this weekend, but it does seem like a game day visit is going to happen. And according to Michigan reporter Aiden Sen, who works for Rivals, Michigan's been building what he called significant momentum with Danny Odom. Now, that's just one reporter's phrasing of it, but it does seem like Michigan's kind of been doing some work in the background with Danny Odom. And I would say I'm a little more concerned than I was when they first kind of offered him. So I don't know where this is headed, but it would be a blow to Nebraska if they lost Danny Odom, I would say.
I mean, Ohio State was still kicking the tires when Odom committed to Nebraska this summer, and I've always said it would be very, very hard to keep him, and they're going to have to do a lot of work to do so. So we'll see how this progresses, but this doesn't surprise me at all.
So hopefully, hopefully Nebraska can keep him in the fold. I mean, he's one of the few, I would say, dynamic players in this 2026 class. He's the second highest ranked guy outside of Claude and Puma. 6'2", 190. I mean, really an elite cover corner. He's 74th overall in 24/7 Sports own rankings. So that's kind of something I'm keeping an eye on. But I think this is a really interesting recruiting weekend. It's good to see Torrey Pittman back on campus. I think Trey Taylor might be back on campus. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is to keep moving the success forward, keep trending up. I think they're doing a nice job with this 2027 class and the 4 commitments that they have already. Although I should say it's kind of interesting, Jabari Watkins just committed to Nebraska and he's visiting Florida State this weekend. So it's like, what are we doing here? Why are you even committing?
Yeah, I don't know. I saw that too, and it's one thing if it's like a couple months, okay, but let's see, I think it was 4 days. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I think it was 4 days, maybe a week after he committed, and he's already visiting Florida State. So I don't know.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because he just had visited Florida State. So it's like, if you're still taking those visits, maybe you're not sure enough to make a commitment. I don't know. It's just it's kind of
we don't need wide receivers. So if you're not sure, then we don't. I'm not going to say we don't need you, but there's depth at wide receiver. So
yeah, and one of the other receivers that was visiting recently, just committed to Penn State, the really highly ranked one. I can't remember what his name was. So some guys starting to come off the board a little bit in the 2027 class, but it's still in a much better spot than Nebraska was in 2026. So I know they're still hoping to flip some guys. Cameron Wilson would be one. I know they were trying to flip Julian Walker from Michigan. They haven't really gained a whole lot of momentum in that recruitment. So yeah, I definitely would like to see them, with all these coaches getting fired too. I would like to see them, like hop on some of these Arkansas, Oklahoma State. Like if there's got to be a defensive lineman in there somewhere that this program could flip, because that's really a position of need for Nebraska in 2026.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on the defensive line. They do need to build some momentum there. The emergence of Cade Petrizak has certainly helped things, but I'd love to see them try to get some more commitments, maybe either in the transfer portal or an all-out commitment, as a high school recruit. But they do need to do some work there, and I think they'll be able to. I'm just not sure what the timeline for that position is.
And even Jordan Campbell, I guess, has been committed to Miami, so that's been a challenge. But yeah, like you mentioned, maybe flip back or circle back to CJ Brona. I mean, he flipped to Florida, and that is not looking like a great situation.
No.
I mean, who knows? Billy Napier could be the next guy to go. I mean, who knows? It could be, depending how this weekend goes, like him and Luke Fickell could be out of jobs by Sunday morning. I mean, honestly, so who knows where that situation is? Maybe Nebraska could circle back on him. I don't know, but if they lose Danny Odom, I think they definitely need to try to make up for that. And there's a Kansas commitment. I think his name is like James Dunnigan or JJ Dunnigan. Yep. He's another guy to know. Ultimately, though, hopefully they can just play defense and guard that commitment successfully of Danny Odom until signing day.
I'm hoping they can play defense. It's going to be tough, but I'm hoping that they can lock him down still.
So, all right, the big recruiting weekend on tap. We got a big game this weekend. This is a big one. I feel like for Nebraska to move their momentum forward, they should be able to, win the next few games. But it all starts Saturday with Michigan State. And to help get you ready, we will have our Saturday pregame chat. So you can come join us 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 Eastern Time, Saturday morning for coffee and pregame with Husker Big Red. So if you haven't already, check that out and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, get to the comment section. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.